Rutke Mods.
Hello, I'm Greg Rutke of Rutke Mods, and welcome to episode 3 of season 2 of my PowerPC series. In this episode, we're going to address something I hinted at. Well, I didn't quite hint at. I basically told at the beginning of episode 1 of this season about my MDD. As I stated in the season finale, right here, these power supplies are notorious for just dying. That's it. They'll just stop working. And sometimes they'll take the board with them, which is not pretty. And usually you're lucky and it won't take the board with them. And I hope this system never has that problem. The power supply actually did go out in this system less than 24 hours after I uploaded the season finale of last season. And, well, here it is right here. This is the insides of the power supply. And I actually bought new insides that we're going to switch out for it. Right now it's got an ATX power supply in it, and this one right here has been cannibalized to make that work. But I bought new insides because it was the cheapest way to do it. It cost, I think, altogether $60, which is a lot cheaper than buying a fully functional one that's fully assembled. So basically, we're going to put the insides of the new one into the old case and see if it will work. As I stated in the previous season series finale, the power supplies sometimes take the boards with them, and I haven't had any sound since I switched over to ATX, so the board might be fried. The nice thing is they're a lot cheaper than they used to be, and I'll probably be able to get a replacement. But if this power supply works, it might fix the sound problem. When I was trying to fix this power supply, what happened was, I think something leaked on the bottom of the power supply. It had a lot of electrolytic fluid on the bottom of it. I don't know where it came from, but I'd say that was the problem. Well, while I was trying to fix the system, see, what happened was the fuse blew in it, and usually that means something caused it to blow and something bad was on the board. So I tried to fix it, and I ended up blowing the power supply up while it was plugged into the system. And as we can see in this picture right here, it was toasted. And I tried to fix the power supply, but I gave up on it and bought the insides to this new one. So what we're going to do is try to fix this system. If it's a fail, well, we'll be ordering a new board. But right now, we'll look on the inside of the system, show you what is in the system now, the ATX power supply, and show you how it's running right now, and then we'll assemble the new power supply and try the new power supply in the system and see if it fixes it. So let's go. So here's the current inside of the MDD. As we can see, well, here's an ATX power supply. Usually when you wire one of these up, they recommend using an extension power cable here for the board power, so you don't mess up the power supply. But I didn't have one of those, so I custom wired it myself. I didn't have any pin removal tools, so I used needles and went through a number of needles to get the pins out. And the power supply wires are made out of a thin gauge copper on this power supply, where on the original one they're made out of a heavy gauge aluminum wire with really strong crimping on them. I pulled a lot of pins off of this thing, trying to pull the pins out. It was a pain, but I did manage to get it to reconnect with the original connector from the other power supply, and got it stuck in here. Now if we see here, to fit a ATX power supply, you have to basically remove the optical drives and run the wire through the back. Right now it's plugged in, and this is what it looks like when it's plugged in. Basically, you know, you have no optical drive. In episode 1, I jokingly showed you my quick solution for getting the super drive to still fit in here by not making it fit in here and taping it on the outside. That was actually a real hack I did for a while there. Okay guys, so here's ATX MDD 2.0. I managed to actually get it to shut, and to not sacrifice the super drive, I've duct taped it to the front. It looks a little stupid, but of course this is all just temporary. All the wires come out through the front, and the drive works. And the neat thing is the discs self-eject themselves when you eject. Just like that. Pretty funny. But, well, it looked stupid, and I just decided not to use the optical drive until I got this thing back together. But I did manage to get this to the point where it would close back up, and yet it looks almost stock, other than having the random wire sticking out the back, as you can see there. But yeah, what I ended up doing, you know, since the ADC port wouldn't work anymore, I had another PowerMac G5 card that was modified. It's an early 2005 PowerMac card that was the Rad-On 9600, not the XT. By this point, they, I think, just converted the XT to a regular, they just changed the name to the 9600, and all the systems came with the 9600. And these cards, the early 2005 model, did away with ADC, so it has 2 DVIs in it. And at first I was just going to stick with an ATX, but like I said, I believe I've said in the past, I'd rather have this thing original. So yeah, here's the power supplies. This is the new one, and I've taken a few parts off the old one, like this grounded shield here, which didn't come with it. I've taken them off this and put it on here, and I haven't tested it yet. So we'll be testing it together, and I'll be assembling it into the original case. I have to find the screws for it because they're laying somewhere. So that's one drawback. It's going to take a while to film this because I've got to find the parts. They've been strewn about for the last few weeks while I was getting everything in, including this power supply, and I kind of lost track of them. So I'll have to look for those screws. Hopefully I'll find them all, and we'll start putting this together. But before we do that, I want to show you how it works right now. We're just going to turn it on so you can see what it looks like while it's open and running, and then I'll hook it up and show you that it does actually run properly, other than having no sound. So let's just quickly turn it on. I'll press the power button, and this had a custom fan I put in it when this was in one of my backup gaming systems. Now that this thing's basically ruined, it will only work in MDDs. So yeah, it gives an interesting cool blue glow, especially on the other side when it's in the dark. And the more I look at it, the more I'm thinking of putting some custom LEDs in it, since this thing is going to be highly modified in the future. But it just looks pretty neat. Let's turn the slide off and see if we can show it better. Yeah, nice little blue glow. But yeah, it's, you know, an ATX power supply. And well, I don't want it in here, so let me hook this up real quick so you can see it's running properly, because I didn't connect the monitor and stuff. And you know, we'll take it from there. Okay, so we've got a cheap LCD hooked up here. It's just one I use for testing usually. It's not the world's best picture quality, but I didn't feel like hooking the ADC display into my adapter, which is sitting over there. So hey, this will work fine. So we'll power it on, and of course you won't hear bong or anything like that because there's no sound, which is really worrying me. So we'll see what's going to happen here. And here we go, we're booted up. We'll just quickly show you that, of course, it is working, but you know, it's got all the power working. And the interesting thing is the sleep mode actually does work with this ATX power supply, which it doesn't in most ATX conversions. And we are now in sleep mode. As we can see, the light's pulsing in it. So that wasn't a successful conversion, but you know, it's still not what we want here. We want the original power supply back in it. So I'm going to unhook this thing, and we'll take it from there. So shut this thing down, and I'll find the parts, and we'll just, you know, get on with these rest of the video. Okay, at this point I've got enough parts to get the power supply back together. I'm missing a few of the case screws for the power supply, but at this point I'm just wanting to get the thing together to see if it works. The seller claims it worked, that's why I bought it. So we'll see. But as we can see here, I took the cover off of this wire, so you could see how it was wired up. I'm going to show you a quick diagram right here of how you wire up an ATX power supply for one of these. Now this only uses one power connector, which is the main board 24 pin, and it requires a lot of tapping into other wires. I wasn't originally going to use duct tape. In fact, I just found my electrical tape. It's been hidden in a pile for a while. But this was, it worked. It's not the prettiest and it's not the best idea, but it worked. And it took a number of hours to wire this up. Lots of hours. And I wasn't really confident it would work. It worked fine. But as we can see, it's just not what Apple intended. So we're going to reassemble this power supply here, and we'll take it as it goes. So let's go. Okay, back to the time lapse. Okay, so now that we have the power supply back together with at least enough screws to keep it together and to see if it actually works, we're going to just temporarily put it in here and see if it powers up, and hopefully it will also have sound if it does power up. I'm really hoping it does. So I'll stick this hook up in here and we'll take it from there. Okay, so I have the minimal amount of stuff hooked up just to see if it will boot. I've got the hard drive connected to an adapter here, and that's literally the only thing plugged into the power supply other than the power supply itself. So in theory, now that it's plugged in, it should turn on. So let's see. And it doesn't. Uh-oh. Okay, so I've unplugged that Molex connector, and we'll see if that did it. Okay. Well, guys, I have great news. I got it to turn on. The board connector apparently wasn't completely connected. And the sound works. But it's a bit loud because the fans sound like they're rubbing. I'm going to hook up the power supplies, the hard drive back up, just to see if it still powers on. And then I'll show you just how loud it is, and I'll see if I can fix the fans. But just give me a second and we'll get back to this. Okay, so here's time for your ears to bleed. It works! Okay, so the fan's wire was grinding into the fan itself, and I just repositioned the wire on this thing. And, well, let's do the official first boot. I've got the hard drive connected, I've got a mouse connected, and let's see if everything works properly. Wow, that's loud. That might and might not be a good sign. I had to reset the SMC, or the PRAM, and the PMU while I was trying to work on it. It just might not know what to boot into yet. So I'm going to connect the keyboard and see if I can fix that. Okay, so here's attempt number 2. It's even louder in person. Go into the boot menu, eventually. And I don't see any boot drives. That could be a problem. Come on, boot drives. Maybe the hard drive adapter is not working. Or maybe I forgot to plug the hard drive in. That could be the problem. Round 3. Alright, now I have the hard drive connected again. Let's try this again, and this time I'm going to try to muffle the speaker some. It's still loud. Come on, baby. Hey, the drive's loading up. Awesome. Oh, this is great, guys. Wait for the boot menu to finish loading, and we'll try to boot into Leopard. Still loading. Oh, these old boot menus, I'll tell you. Come on. There we go. Enter. That's a good sign. Now the screen resolution's probably going to be messed up. This screen defaults to a really small, well, I guess, well, yeah. It defaults to a really small resolution, so we might have to set that back up, but we'll see. Grab my mouse. And that might be the right resolution, actually. Let's see. Let's see here. Displays. Yep, that's the right resolution. Now let's just test the speaker real quick to see if it's still working in the operating system. Oh, I'm really happy right now, guys. I'm going to go find the rest of the screws to this power supply here and clean the board a little bit in it, reassemble it again, and stick it back in the case. And hey, this thing's been resurrected and works great. Now, if you notice this blinking in the camera, that's not actually visible in real life. That's still a solid light. The refresh rate on the LED on this works funny on the computer. I mean the camera. So still, it's normal. There's nothing wrong with it. That is interesting, though. I've never actually seen that. I've seen it in other people's videos, but when I was filming the other video about this, I didn't see that. But anyway, getting back to the point, the MDD has been successfully resurrected, and well, you know, that's the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching, and this has been a Rutke Mods video.